What are you, as a company, advising people starting out to do on social media? I guess
these things are here, and these tools and practices and ways, our way of life is here, and it's here to stay, I think, for better or for worse. Wow, I can actually do this and get paid for it. It's a cool fucking feeling, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's
now they're looking at you as a mode, as a vehicle again, to get to that result, not just a position yourself as a growth partner.
What do you ask me to challenge my thinking and
hear me out here, bros. This video got this company X amount of dollars and this amount of impressions because we did it. Now,
ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a quick break from our show to say a massive thank you and a big shout out to one of our amazing sponsors, Dave DiStefano. Dave is a mortgage broker with over 13 years in the business, and Dave has a great rapport with a network of lenders, including big banks, credit unions, trust companies, financial institutions, and private funds. He will work on your behalf to help you find the best mortgage with the most agreeable terms and the lowest interest rate. After meeting Dave many times and having great discussions with him, he provides a level of confidence and comfort in knowing that he is going to take care of you. If you want to reach out to Dave, you can find his office on 6293 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. For more information or to make an appointment for any of your mortgage needs, call 905-933-1090. That's 905-933-1090. And thanks for listening. Back to the show.
What's going on, Meeting Gold listeners? It's Chris Battaglia, 416 Coffee. Use the coupon code Meeting Gold to get 10% off your first order at 416 Coffee. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another Meeting Gold episode. We've got my boy Umby Campana on the pod today.
buddy, thank you.
How you doing, man? You want to move the mic a little closer?
Yeah.
Just bring it in a bit.
How are we doing here?
I think we're good. Johnny, you want to check the angle on that one? While he does that, I have to say this. Social media. Umby, your whole life is social media. That's how you pay your bills. Very similar to me, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Critics say it's a distraction, ruining our younger generation. What do you say to that?
That's a good one to start right off on, eh?
Yeah, gotta start with some heat.
Fire off with me. Yeah, something with some oomph. I think that, like many things, it's really the way in which you use it and like your relationship with it will dictate if it's a distraction from your goals or from what you need to get done during the day, or if it can be a productive tool for what you need. I oftentimes even relate it to the newspaper a lot of the time now, like in terms of media 30 or 40 years ago versus today. When you see someone on a train scrolling through their phone or mindlessly or on the bus or whatever, for whatever reason, there's this connotation that, oh, they're obsessed with their phone. They're depleting their intelligence. They're just mindlessly scrolling, like I said. But it could be that they're reading the news, for example, or, reading a book on their phone or something like that. So just by being on social media, you're actually taking in media and news and all this other content similar to a way that you would have when you were reading the paper or doing something that was viewed as productive before, right? So I think in itself, yes, it can be distracting, the apps, the addictive elements that they have. But furthermore, if you structure your relationship with them in a way that you're seeing the right type of content that is conducive with your goals or productive for what you need, then I think it can be productive too.
I think the benefits of social media can massively outweigh the negatives, but vice versa as well. And like you said, exactly what you said,
Definitely.
It's how you use it, right?
Definitely. And I think it almost, something like a term that I always clench to when I ever have this conversation is like inevitability. Like these things are here, and these tools and practices and ways, our way of life is here, and it's here to stay, I think, for better or for worse. So if it's inevitable and that this is going to be a part of your life for most people, you should approach it through a way that it can yield you a reward, or it can do wonders for you as opposed to your detriment or like bring you down, right?
Okay, so on that note then, tell me, your clients, you have a lot of monthly clients that you work with, managing their social media, coming up with strategies, branding ideas, and it's awesome. We've started to work hand in hand together on that. Talk to me a little bit about what your clients are using social media for.
I think that's a good question, because not many people actually ask that or approach it through that lens of why am I posting or what am I doing it for? And each client is on social media for a different reason. A lot of them have a similar reason because they share a niche or an industry, but client A is on social media and their message on social media is different from client B. The major thing I would say why our clients are on social media now is to be able to directly communicate with their audience, right? So we're in a time now in modern media where you have a platform where you can communicate A to B to your audience or your potential customer, which in the past you really didn't have that access, or you would have had to go through a platform to do that. So I think the main thing is really just touch points, resonating with your audience and keeping in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge in terms of keeping in front of them. I think that can be overly exhausting. I mean, that's why people like me and you are in business, is because people don't want to
That's true.
do it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you think about it, right, we take it off their plate. The one thing that I want to touch on today, and actually a lot more in depth, is what are people doing to constantly tap into their network on social media? Because there's a rabbit hole, there's the dark side, I guess you could call it, of social media around the sun, the backside of the sun. They can talk about YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and then on top of that, getting into new social media platforms like Be Real. Should clients be using Be Real? Like, what are you as a company advising people starting out to do on social media? I guess we can kind of start there.
Yeah. I think you intro that question well, talking about the different platforms, because something that I really hammer in early with a client in our discovery call or onboarding is you need to be aware of your tone, and your message needs to be conducive with the platform that you're speaking on. And you need to think about who's on that platform. So we talk a lot about, and Sam, you and I have had conversations a lot about this too, about repurposing content. So working smart, not hard. So you have a long form piece of content, repurposing, chopping it up and using it across all of the platforms we just mentioned. Now that works, and that is a strong strategy, but you can't just do that. In a one-dimensional sense and post across all of them from the same place. You need to actually take the main purpose or the main point of your content, understand it fundamentally, and then reform your positioning or reform the angle for which you're presenting it on social media in each place. So, you know this well, Sam, but the way that I would present something today, the mortgage rate hike, for example, the way that I would present that information on TikTok to my audience on TikTok, who might be a younger, fast-paced type of audience, would be different from a LinkedIn post where I have a professional audience that is really looking to get the real logistics or the real specifics of what that change might entail, right? So tying this all in, the important thing is being aware of your tone and your message on which platform it's going out on, and being able to be versatile that way, right?
If there's a platform that you would target more than anything, what are you hitting?
In terms of where to be today?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you two. I'll say YouTube and TikTok for sure. Look, guys, obviously Instagram and Facebook aren't going anywhere. You need them a part of your strategy. We've talked at length about why they're here and why they're not going anywhere for the last, 3 to 5 years, right? But TikTok, the fastest growing social media platform right now, right? They're projecting, I think it's projected to surpass Instagram and Facebook and be the leading platform in like a year or two. Don't quote me on that. I could be just spewing BS your way, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then YouTube, the changes they're making with shorts, the way that people use it as like a search engine almost as well, and the way that people use it as like a substitute for cable even, or Netflix and these other streaming platforms. I think those two platforms are here to stay, and you should definitely be considering them when approaching your strategy for 2023 and moving forward.
So on that note, you mentioned YouTube, you mentioned TikTok, and then you kind of brought up Instagram. And I think what's interesting is you didn't say Instagram. And I'm kind of in a mixed boat about this. I have really gotten frustrated with Instagram lately, just based on the subconscious thoughts it puts in my head. When people are posting stories about, they're working 24/7, it gives you a perceived thought. Because if Timmy isn't working 24/7 here, he posts a story at 9 a.m. that he's working. And then, Jim posts a story at 5 a.m. that he's working. And then Terry posts a story at 11 o'clock that he's working. And then you post your story at 3 o'clock when you're working in the morning. It feels like you're always behind. And I personally find that stories do that. Stories negatively affect me in that way. But from the positive side on that, I'm always keeping in tune with my audience. I'm always keeping in tune with what they are doing, and it's keeping me top of mind. It's keeping them top of mind. So when you're on Instagram, one of the advantages I find is stories.
Yeah.
For you, because YouTube and TikTok, I mean, TikTok does have stories, but because they don't really target the what's happening now, whereas Instagram does, you know, we're here right now making the podcast, whereas YouTube's like, we may have filmed this a month ago.
Yeah.
What are you doing on YouTube and TikTok to really differentiate what you would be doing on Instagram?
Yeah, I think you have a different opportunity on TikTok specifically. I'll start there and then we can get into YouTube as well. With TikTok, you have a different opportunity in terms of frequency as well. Like you can be posting more often throughout the day, and your message and your content doesn't need to be, I think, as polished as something that you would consider on Instagram. Now, Reels and TikToks are starting to be very interchangeable in the way that we discuss them on, you know, on shows like this or stuff like that. But I think there's still a large differentiator there to be identified, that the way that your content is consumed on Instagram through a Reel is actually pretty different still the way that it's consumed through TikTok and just your audience there. So the one thing is frequency. Like I mentioned, you can definitely be posting more. And then I think you can be a little bit more personable or build a little bit more trust through TikTok by just letting your guard down and letting people in. So that's where you can do, you know, some of your sillier stuff, some of the around the office fun type of content that sometimes I think brands are a little bit apprehensive to put out on their Instagram and Facebook. But with TikTok and the way that the feed works and, you know, the way that the pace at which video is consumed, I think that it gives you that window to be a little bit more fun.
You couldn't have answered that any better. I mean, look at Ryan Air.
Yeah.
Right? Ryan Air's incredible. Look at Lotus.
Yeah.
Their TikTok. It's not even it's like it's a meme page, right?
What do they do so well?
Lotus, all they post is memes, and they'll do stuff where they make fun of other car brands.
Yeah.
And people love it. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of views. I think the advantage, like you just said, is on TikTok, you'll get 10 million views. Do you know how much, how much that would cost you to run on Facebook ads to get 10 million views?
Yeah, exactly. And that, you know, you bring up a good point too, that we had conversation recently on the note of theme pages and where the direction of that's going, and how when you quantify or really associate a dollar value with views, then you start to strategize backwards and saying, okay, well, what is the cheapest way to get 1 million views? What is the cheapest way to get 1 million views in my niche, for example? And maybe it's not paying Facebook, paying Zuckerberg, $1,000 a day for ads, but maybe there's more creative ways to get in front of this audience through niche pages like that, stuff like that, right?
I love it.
Makes you think about it, yeah.
I love it. I interrupted you, but talk about YouTube and the differentiating factor that you're using for YouTube specifically around the strategies when you're trying to adjust. Because I think the problem is so many people want to just throw one thing on YouTube and then use it as 50 different things for everything else. Yeah. If you really want to make it work and you really want to blow up, it's got to be custom on everything.
100%. So much so. And I think you have an innate obvious opportunity on YouTube to be able to be that real strong point of authority. So with YouTube, I think one of your main goals, amongst other things, of course, is to really establish yourself as that credible, authoritative figure within your industry. So people are coming back to your channel for updates on things that might be happening. Or, you know, we'll use this example again, if the interest rate affected, you know, the hike affected your industry or whatever, maybe you would go on mortgage professionals channel and see what they have to say about it, because in your mind, they're going to give an unbiased, very straight to the point answer. Whereas if you're reading the Bank of Canada article, you might take it in a different way, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. And I think that you have to be able to recognize it's got to be different. Yeah. You've got to change it up. Yeah. When you're jumping on those discovery calls, because that's something that you mentioned, what are you... Like, I know what our prospects say, but what are your guys saying about social media? What are the reasons people wouldn't do business with you?
Yeah, I'll give you a good one, because you and I were chatting about them before we hopped on the pod here today. Was in real estate specifically, I feel like we get this question almost towards the end of every discovery call is, okay, so I'm posting, this content looks great. Like, how do I track if what I'm paying you to do is working, right? Like, where is my ROI? How do I track this ROI? And we've probably said this till we're blue in the face, but with social media strategy and the things that we offer our clients, it isn't as one-dimensional as a Facebook ad, in the sense that you pay to play and you pay and get a result immediately. Anyway, there isn't something where you can quantify, this dollar is going to get me this much back most of the time. What you really need to do is look at your strategy through the lens that you're checking all these boxes in terms of what is best practice on the platform. So, that you have some posts that are appealing to get the most impressions, get views. How you have some posts that are based in trust and going to help you get more leads. And then, you have some posts that are call to action posts and really are going to actually generate leads. So once you've done those things and you've done them well, it's really just about setting it up and having frequency throughout the platform to understand what's working and what's not, and then dictating and following up on the things that are going well, right?
You mentioned something really important in that is the consistency aspect.
Yeah.
People are not consistent enough.
No.
That's
Never.
the biggest problem. They'll start a podcast, they'll stop after 8 episodes. Gary Vee actually said it really well. He said everybody's starting a podcast nowadays, but now the startup for new podcasts, I guess Apple Podcasts has a 50% drop in America in the last couple months.
Interesting. Yeah.
And people now posting other new episodes. So it was this splurge, and now it's fallen off.
Yeah.
He goes, if you stay consistent, people will just want to listen to you as a person. They like you as a person. I mean, look at some of the stupidest people, like look at the Island Boys, right?
Yeah.
They blew up for no reason.
Yeah.
No reason whatsoever. People just gravitated towards them and they liked it. And that was it.
I think that you almost have, and you do this well, I'll give you credit to this, Sam, before I even say it. You almost have a duty, though, with having a podcast such as this, to do a lot of research or have some creativity in who you pull for guests. And you do that extremely well. And if you just look at the past 10 guests you've had on, or, even just the last, 30 or 50 episodes, or how many of you've had, I know just in watching a bunch of different ones that there's so many different walks of life that come through here. And I think that's why a good podcast can be so versatile and appeal to so many people. And I think you owe that to your audience to bring on people they want to hear, right? Because at the end of the day, they love hearing you, Sam, and they want to hear what you have to say, but you're half of the show a lot of the time, right?
They trust it, right?
Yeah.
Umby, I'm gonna hit you with some questions that people are probably thinking this or that. And I play devil's advocate in my mind a lot too. So for everybody listening or watching, if you're playing devil's advocate, like you can't start or something like that, that's fine. You're more than welcome to.
Yep.
But hopefully Umby can spill some of those myths.
Yeah, let me clear the
Number
air here.
one, Umby, I have no ideas. Where do I even get ideas? Help me.
So many different things. I'll just, at the top of my head, I see this so much. So these AI tools that are coming into play right now are just such a hub for idea creation, ideation. You should have them as a part of all of your brainstorming sessions. So if you need a post idea, why don't you go to something, the obvious one right now, but there's tens of 20s of variations of these tools. Go to ChatGPT. I need, 10 ideas for a real estate social media post about first-time home buyers. They're going to give you 10, right? And then you need to dictate it towards your strategy. So don't just take those and post them, but look at what your strategy is. If your strategy is to be very personable, if it's to be, quirky, if your tone is to be funny, then type back in ChatGPT, make them funny, or dictate that input in a way that you would like it to, until you have an idea that you can then execute on. So the main thing there is, and I think a lot of people are getting this mixed up right now, is you need to adopt, and again, the inevitability, these tools are there whether you like them or not, so you need to use them, but you need to adopt these AI tools such as ChatGPT as a process, as a vehicle in your process, but not the end. Not the end goal. as your medium, right? Yep. So it's not you input, you take it out, and then you post the output perfectly. I mean, you can obviously, but people are going to start to see through that very quickly. You need to use it as an ideation tool to get you past those humps that you mentioned. Like, okay, so hit me with another question. What's another one?
What are the top 5 questions I should be asking myself when I'm trying to strategize my brand? And let me just quickly jump in. Okay, so we're on the discovery call. It's going to be, hey, you tell me it's going to be this much a month for this much management. Okay, sounds good. I'm good for it. Let's do it. I'm committed. But what do you ask me to challenge my thinking and tell me what are the certain things that I have to keep consistent across my brand, across all platforms. How are you engaging in that kind of conversation? Give me some questions.
Let me rapid fire you some. Okay, what does your ideal customer portfolio look like? So that helps us really understand like who they love to work with or work really well with, for example. Obviously, we're going to ask about what their content output like currently looks like. So what do you have in place right now? What is working and what isn't? What are your goals? We always ask short-term and mid-term. When we're first starting, I never actually ask long-term goals just right away, because I think it gives people something to latch onto closer and gives them opportunity for reward closer on the first call, where I can say, hey, we can get you that, and we can have an actionable step to get you to the first step. And then once we are taking them on as a client beyond the first call, we'll of course talk about their long-term goals and grow towards them. But something that we talk about is and I like to do this, is what is something that I can provide to you in the first month or 3 months of service that you will view as valuable, that you feel that there's no buyer's remorse after working with us.
Interesting.
That, if you know what I mean.
So show you care.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
care. Like what us as an agency, what can we provide you to show that we are in this with you for the long haul?
Well, the problem is, and you nailed it, that's exactly it. And the problem is with what we do, and especially with social media strategy, there's delayed gratification, right? It's not, and we as humans hate that. We love to like do something and get a reward. But if we're especially paying for something, investing in something that isn't reaping you a reward after 1 month, and then the second bill comes and you still haven't seen a reward, it's very easy to call that person up and, just cancel out of, emotion, fear, or whatever it is, or, you genuinely feel like it's not a good business move for you. So what we need to do as an agency is be able to show and identify a roadmap for success and show that there's goals along the way that are improving, that we are making headway, we are making progress, whether it be, cleaning the feed out so it looks presentable, it looks professional and presentable aesthetically when people arrive there. You might not get leads or might not be getting 100,000 views yet, but at least it looks like a professional page when they're viewing there. That's something that we can promise in the first month, for example, where a client knows they're getting value, a client feels good about what they're paying for is really doing something for them.
The foundational build.
Yeah,
you need to build the foundations, the foundational habits first before you can look to grow.
Definitely.
It's the number one thing. Every single time we jump on a pitch together, it's always, we're not going to overpromise you. We're going to tell you we got to build the foundations.
Yeah, and I think what I always like to say, and you and I, like we learn this from each other, Sam, we always chat about this too, is we can't just pitch on something to pitch it. Like I need to ask questions first. I need to understand who you are, what you're looking to do, where you need to be, what those short-term goals are, et cetera, before I could say, hey, here's your solution. Like we're not a one-stop shop where, we can fix windows and your window's broken. Here's the fix. It's going to be, okay, what type of window do you have? What type of epoxy does it need? I don't even know if that's something you use on windows. What type of crack does it have? Bad example. But the idea is that whatever solution we're going to offer from a social media perspective is not one size fits all. It's not set it and forget it. It's going to be based on your personality, based on your situation, your demographic, all these other things that you have. So yeah, you really need to listen before you start speaking.
So another question that I always get asked, almost challenge myself with, is what am I offering that's not just competing on price? As a company. Because if you're ever competing on price, you're not growing. Right? So what's your value add with that? And then people can hopefully, the prospect can look at it and say, that's a good value add. I think I'm gonna spend that. What are you doing that's competing not against price?
I want to answer this question actually in a different way, because I really like it. I think that the rabbit hole that we fall into so much of the time as an agency is, like you said, to compete on price, or to think that someone only wants the cheapest price, which is never really the case. And then you end up like pigeonholing yourself as that cheap company that people, have that perception of, that you cannot grow past that. What you actually need to do as an agency, I think, is associate and tie your service to ROI. And once you've done that, you can start to charge accordingly. So hear me out here, bro. So what I'm thinking with that is, with just trying to charge a simple fee or the cheapest fee possible, you don't look at the project through the lens of what my outcome is going to be or what my return on investment is going to be, like how much this is going to really do for me. You're just looking at it as, okay, I need to do this. What's the cheapest I can get it done for? Now, just by doing that, you've already positioned your agency alongside, not as a growth partner, not as someone they need to get to the next step, but just as a commodity that they purchased.
Wow, you just
as a
totally
commodity that they
switched my
purchased,
thinking.
right?
Wow.
That they, it's done. But if you position yourself as a growth partner, if you position yourself as an ROI based service that, look, we're doing this to get to here. So when you're talking about your service, it's not, we do videos well, this is my best video. It's, this video got this company X amount of dollars and this amount of impressions because we did it. Now they're looking at you as a mode, as a vehicle again, to get to that result, not just a fee for their bookkeeper to pay out at the end of the month.
I see what you're saying. I think it's important when you look at it that way.
Yeah. You're
okay putting out those higher quotes because you're so confident in the results that it's bringing.
I think, and yeah, that's it, man. When we're putting, when we're doing quotes at, 5 or 6 figures of business and things like that, which for young businesses like us, that's a great deal.
It's
Obviously,
deal,
there's people that are doing millions
7
and
figures,
billions,
hopefully
right?
Someday. Yeah.
You owe it, I feel intrinsically, you owe it to your client to know or at least believe 100% that what you're going to do for them is going to work, or at least it's going to get them what you say it's going to do. And you do that by positioning your service alongside the outcome, the goal, the business, the dollars of what it is, not just, hey guys, thanks for buying my post or my video. Hope it goes well for you, whatever it is, right?
There's a really cool guy, and I'm kind of tapping into another question.
Yeah.
His name's Dan Coe.
Yeah.
And he has a great podcast, and he talks about different business structures. And the business structure that you're in, similar to me, freelancer or company. And the benefits and negatives to both, and why you would work with one or the other.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you is, do you feel that the freelancer model or the company model is better? Which one? Or are you not choosing?
It's so, I don't like to answer it in an objective way to say it's better, because it's the opposite. It's so subjective to what your goals are. And I'll say it like this. I think what it comes down to is there's a ceiling with freelancing that you can look at it how many different ways. You can't run through that ceiling. You can't get around it. You can't grow past it unless you add another person. And as soon as you add another person, you're no longer a freelancer.
Yep.
You're a company now. So the thing is, if you're content with, I'll put something like, if you're content with making $10,000 a month freelancing, you have a good, $120,000 salary for yourself at the end of the year, that you're happy with doing that. You're your own boss still. You have all these great things that come with freelancing. That's good. Then that is a successful freelancing expedition for you.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
If you're not happy with what you got back after the tax man takes his cut and after you pay all your bills and you're like, you know what, this isn't enough. Well, there isn't really many other ways than to charge much higher. And as a freelancer, you really can't get those top dollar clients without having a team, right?
That's very true.
So the really only other way is to add people to your team and start to go and be more ambitious and get more people. So I think the common roadmap that people in agency spaces or marketing follow nowadays is, and I did this myself, I think you might attest to the same, Sam, is you start off as a freelancer because you almost don't feel qualified that people will pay you for your service, but the first couple do, and you're like, wow, I can actually do this and get paid for it, and it's a cool fucking feeling, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Once you have that, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to start doing this on the side, and it's your side thing. And then it starts to impede on your main gig, which is like your 9-to-5 job. And then you start to, oh, okay, I'm staying up at nights doing this. Well, you know what? Maybe if I didn't have to do this during the day, I could really make a go at this. And then you start freelancing full time, right? And then you follow the course of what I said. Then you're not happy with how much you're making, or you're not, maybe you feel like you can't keep up with it, or you need better quality of life, so you need other people to outsource to. And now you're a company, right? So I think oftentimes the roadmap to starting your own agency is to start freelancing for other agencies.
I think it walks you into it.
Yeah.
And, now I look at it, and I'm sure you do too, is if you left everything, moved to, Florida and started this back up, you wouldn't start as a freelancer if you knew, because you know what you want, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with going that freelancer model. I mean, realistically, in the first 3 years, you probably make more than the business owner as a freelancer, because you have way less overhead, right? Gross isn't everything.
Yeah, that's the catch-22. I think a lot of people don't see that is gross isn't everything. And a lot of people see the figures we just discussed in this talk are gross, right? Like what the actual value of the contract is. That is never what Sam or Umby or Tom or John are making at the end of the day, right? And you and I chat a lot about too is the infancy stages of an agency such as ours, 2, 3, 4 years into the making. So much of our focus in getting new clients is it's not so much as looking at as base like profit to labor ratio and how much we're making, and this is a win, and we're making X amount off this client, but more so at this stage, this client can get us in the room with these other people, and this client is a great person to work with that we feel like we can grow with or align ourselves with for X amount of years. Like I don't think either of us has an exit strategy in place yet. So the decisions we're making today about our agencies are going to be affecting 3 years from now, 4 years from now. And that's why you need to think about it that way, right?
It's such a cool way of looking at it. It goes back to, not being greedy with that sense. I think it's like you cannot say no to jobs when you're starting out or feel like you're making a lot of money when you're not really.
No.
Because you need to be building that base.
100%.
You need to be building those relationships, especially like we're both young. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Yeah, we're both really
You're
young.
super young, yeah.
So there's no, I always say this, like you got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And I say that in like a good way. I love what I do, and I know you love what you do, but we are paying our dues. We're 100%. Working hard to build those relationships, right? For you, you have a very humble beginning, right? You're working at a restaurant, and then you kind of just like stumbled into the whole social media thing, not making much from it. And then you slowly started to get a little bit busier, slowly started to charge a little bit more.
You did your research from our last chat, You read
up.
Yeah, no, you remember.
I think, the next question I have for you would be more on that personal side.
Yeah.
With your humble beginnings, with starting as a freelancer, what would you say is your biggest perceived failure that has become your greatest success?
Ooh, this is a good one.
And this actually comes from Dave Decker.
Really?
Owner of Herc's Nutrition. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. Smart gent. That's a great question. I think I'm going to position it this way. I think something that I initially had done, which felt good at the beginning, and then in the middle part of my growth of my business, I viewed as a detriment or was a point of pain for me, and now has actually in hindsight played off well for me, was doing a lot of free work in the beginning, just working for free, getting my work out there, and charging a very affordable rate when I didn't have the prior work to charge more, right? So I think a mistake that people make is if you get so caught up in these online communities of marketing and hustling and things like that, you can see people say, charge your worth, charge X amount, find the person who's willing to pay $5,000 a month, whatever it is, And that is a great, it's a strong strategy, and that can work.
If you're in it for the money.
If you're in it for the money and you have behind you all of this portfolio work that someone can look at you and say, okay, I'll pay you. Yeah. Well, why would anyone pay you X amount of money or anything like that if you have no work to show off or you have no proven success, right? No testimonials, nothing. So at first, the biggest thing you should be doing is working for free. That's what I did. Definitely working for free. I had the great opportunity. I'll give a shout out here to Matt at Invitco. That was my boy who I was freelancing for him at the beginning, and he really showed me the reins of his business and gave me opportunity to start working with him. So find someone that you can, offer a service to in an agency or freelance yourself, and then just work for free at the beginning, and then obviously start to charge a considerate, modest amount based on where you're at in your craft, right? And the way that me doing that at the beginning ended up being fruitful in the long run was I was able to get into a lot of conversations and rooms and people and groups with referrals just because I was doing good work at an affordable rate for people, and they felt like, they were happy with the service.
They wanted to mention it.
And the best way to get a new client is word of mouth, or, your successes or your clients are your best marketing pieces, right? Yep. So in something that I thought was a mistake by maybe charging in terms of the industry, in terms of what an industry standard is, maybe charging a cheaper rate, it ended up being fruitful for me in the end because it gave me a lot of experience. It got me a lot of clients and a lot of connections that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
I love it. And on that note, now you've got a few employees, you've got an office space. What would you say is one of the things that you've kind of learned, I guess, hard lessons over the last little while, more pertaining to the whole training side, the team side, and scaling the business? I know capacity is always a concern for a smart business person because they don't want to overcapacitate.
Yeah. Something that, a major shift I've made recently in my approach to my business is like managing personalities and just trying to understand the other side of the coin or the other side, like what the person on my team must be feeling like working there or whatever it is. Because I think that's something that I'm guilty of doing sometimes, is being so entrenched in the work and our goal and like I live and breathe what we do at Warp. Like it's literally the only thing I do. So sometimes I become so obsessed with what we're doing that I feel like everyone else shares that mindset, but I need to respect that, everyone else that I'm working with, my team, they are 100% committed to Warped, but they go home and then they have other things to do. They have other things they like to do. And for me, this is the only thing I like to do.
Yeah.
But I need to understand that not everyone has that mindset. And so trying to approach, the business through that way and just, making it, I hope, known that it's not the only thing that matters. A dollar and cents and the business. It's like other things, like, the relationships, the camaraderie we're building at the office and all that, and wanting them to succeed in their personal ventures and things like that too. So just approaching, I think a major change now is approaching the way that I manage a team, because I didn't have one before, and looking at it through that lens.
It's a kicker into the real world when you hire a first employee.
Yeah.
I find, and I'm sure you found the same way. When you've got that committed expense, it really puts a fire under your butt to get things rolling. What would you say for you specifically, talking about, when you added more expenses, either you drown in them or you come out on top because it's the fire under your butt to keep going. What motivates you in doing what you're doing? Like what really pushes you?
So many things, man. I'm like, I think I get to the point where you surpass motivation and it's almost like a convocation. Like you need to do it.
True.
Like I wake up like upset sometimes that I'm not where we need to be at. And it's not, I don't ever need to seek external motivation or look at or read something or watch something. Like it's just burning inside me that when I wake up, I need to do it. And I think that another motivator for me, like we just chatted about having the team now, is like they have goals, personal goals, professional goals, monetary goals that they want to hit. Mm-hmm. And now it's an additional motivator for me to have that help them succeed, because now I have people that are relying on the business and all of us are relying on each other to hit those goals. So like that fires you right up to get out of bed in the morning, that, okay, well, if I'm not going to do this for me, which I've never had a problem with because I'll always do it for Warped.
Absolutely.
But if I'm not going to do it for myself, then I need to do it for the team, right?
That level of responsibility.
Yeah. That's it. That's it, right?
It pushes you so hard. And I think that defines a company, and the commodity and the camaraderie you build within a company is what's going to either make it skyrocket or not.
Yeah.
Right. So for you, as we close off, I do want to touch on the things that you're doing now to get that 3-year long-term, midterm goal that you have set. What are you doing right now specifically amongst your marketing, strategy-wise, and in talking with clients that's really elevated your brand, and just the things that you've learned over the last couple of years, I guess, doing it?
I'm taking a dose of my own medicine, I think, that I just gave you about positioning. So brand positioning is so key. So we had a major meeting at the beginning of 2023 with like my main key holders at our business. And we sat down and we just said, we have goals that we want to hit, growth goals, revenue goals, whatever it is. And the way that we're going to hit these is we're going to, reconstruct and work backward the process, deconstruct the process from Z back to A to see how we would get there. So we did that, and, we worked it out to make it a little bit more attainable that way, right? And we looked at it, and I posed the question after we had done that, like, okay, well, what's stopping us or what's holding us back from like really getting to where we need to go, or like really taking these steps? And I think the issue with what we were doing and it's my own fault, was the positioning of our company was positioned too much as maybe just a company that can make a social media post for you, and not a company that can be your growth partner for your marketing as a whole, or have the expertise to take your marketing, your brand, and present it across all of social media or all of your digital marketing efforts to gain you results. And once we started to build packages, have communication, look at our process that way, and add people in our team to do it that way, we're able, I think, to get in the right rooms and have the right types of contracts and clients that we really want, or that we're looking for this year, based on, just kind of reshifting our perception to how we're going to treat the business and what our process is in that way.
When you brought up something really interesting, when you are dealing with big companies, what are some of the things that you'll hear them say? I know one is we have in-house, and to compete against that is quite hard.
Yeah.
However, the cost, because I know our industry, is somewhat similar.
Yeah.
The cost, the time involved in training is definitely leaning more to the in-house.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
It's a common question I have a lot of the time, where I'd say many of the scenarios I've been in where we've taken on larger contracts that are in the space that I just mentioned, like full more comprehensive marketing packages. It hasn't been, okay, pitch us versus why we should hire you versus company B, which is an agency. It's usually pitch us why we should hire you versus this in-house marketer that we're already paying, X amount a month or X amount for their salary. And the answer I typically give, and there's a couple different angles that I would approach this with, because there's a couple different true scenarios here, but I think the one that resonates the most with people is expertise. And if you're hiring one person, you have them in-house, they're going to oversee all of your marketing. Okay, what's the pro and con? We'll do a quick analysis. The pro for people is usually they get this false sense of that they're taken care of, this false sense of peace of mind, because that any time they can message this person, it's their marketing person, it's taken care of. Yeah. But the reality is, this person that you hired is good at one thing in your marketing package, and then was able to spew in the interview a little bit around all the other items that you talked about. So if they were good at copywriting or good at graphic design, they're probably not the strongest at running digital marketing campaigns on Facebook and Google ads, anything like that.
Can't be everything.
But if your marketing strategy and it needs to be omni-channel, then you need all of these things. How are you going to task John in-house to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Are you going to spend more in training to get him to be able to learn all of these tasks? Or are you going to spend the same or less, outsource it to an agency that is, one, has in-house experts, but then is two, actively learning and staying on top of this industry as it changes every day? Yeah. And then let them have a horse in the race, meaning they have an active reason, an active interest to be successful with you because they don't want to get fired, which, the private employee has too, but they have a lot more protection
government protects them a lot more
than an agency, right? So I spin it that way. And I think, look, if you were to ask us to execute anything we just spoke of, whether it be Google ads, whether it be graphic design, whether it be a social media post, whether it be email marketing, I am going to talk with our in-house expert or our partner, our agency partner, who solely deals with that service, because our agency is very compartmentalized, meaning there's a service or a task that one person takes care of. We're going to get you the person who is at the top and forefront of knowledge at that industry to do that work. And it's not going to be someone who's looking at the latest HubSpot blog posts or the latest Later Media blog posts on a quick Google search to see what the best practice is for that, right?
It's got to be somebody that really taps into who or what the industry really represents.
I feel like I spew so much when I'm talking here with you, man. You get me going.
I do. It's actually good to get that knowledge from you, because you present things in a completely different perspective.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully there's something useful in there.
Oh, dude, I love it. I love it. And last question for you. When you're looking at your overall agency, what would you say is the one personal life lesson that you've learned building it? Not specific to business, just in general.
Not to have a plan B, I think. That's probably a big one.
Burn your ships.
I was just gonna say, I love this guy, man. This fucking guy, he knew it. So I was just gonna say, we have a motto, a saying at Warped called, burn the boats or burn the ships, and it essentially means that if you have a plan B or plan to have a plan B, you're gonna default on your plan B, and you're gonna pussy out to whatever that scenario is gonna be. You're gonna lose. But if you go there, you plan to take a territory, you're in war, you plan to take a land, and you burn your boats because you're either going to die or take the land, you better believe I'm going to try to take the land. So that's from a business perspective. But in life, I think there's so many scenarios, relationships, all these different things where we accept that we can't have something, or we accept that it shouldn't be for us, or we accept that, you know, maybe a fitness goal or whatever it is, that it's too out of reach. But if you just look at it, that's the only thing that's possible and that's what's going to happen, then it seems a lot more achievable, I think, right?
So just being able to be more confident and achieve.
Yeah. And just don't make excuses for yourself. Whether, like, if you want to go out and do something, just do it. And you are going to fail sometimes, but at least you're going to learn something along the way.
I love it, buddy.
Yeah, that's the biggest cliche I dropped here, I
no,
guess.
But just the way that you said it, Think and Grow Rich talks about it.
Yeah.
You know, there was a Chinese army back in the 1600s that would burn their ships.
Really?
And the only way that they could
it's been
escape the
going on.
island that they were attacking was by taking the other people's ships. That was it.
I get goosebumps when I hear about that
It's
stuff, man.
incredible.
Because I like to, I mean, it seems overzealous at this point, but I like to think of things like when we're doing business, when we're really going hard, I like to think of it as war. I like to think of it as extremes like that, as sports. So if you can fire up, yeah, exactly. And if you can fire up your team to want to win like that, I think that's where it comes from.
Yep. Okay, we always have a tradition.
Yeah.
What is a question that you have from the conversation that we had today? What is a question that you have for the next guest? I can't tell you who they are.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go with it this way. Something from a business perspective, because I've been doing a lot of thinking on this thing, on things like this. When you for this next guest, whoever it may be, if they have a team, what are the best ways to keep your team refreshed or like incentivized or having fun or whatever it is? Because I think that you spurred something in my mind, Sam, about culture at the workplace. And I've been thinking a lot about culture in our team now because it's a new thing, right? We're a new team, we're still building. And I'm curious as what other people do to build team culture. Yeah.
Get some ideas out of it.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to have to tune into the next one.
Yeah, you're going to have to tune in to the next one. That's actually a really good question. I think I try to challenge myself with that as well. Yeah. There's things that you can do that don't, tap into the budget.
Yeah.
Right? So there's really no excuse.
That's it, yeah.
It's what you value.
Just being mindful, yeah.
Umby, brother, where can people find you?
Bro.
Kind of everywhere, to be honest. Warped. Yeah. We didn't really speak on it.
No, yeah, please follow us at Warped Web. Follow us on Instagram, and then from there, I'm sure you'll find us everywhere else.
I love it, man. Guys, thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are. I hope you got a little bit of 2 cents as to how to build a marketing agency, but more importantly, the steps you have to take to be good on social media.
That's it.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.